Hi, cat. Come and get some mango, baby.
One, two, 1, 2, 3. Self-awareness is a superpower. My name is KathyLaDonna. Welcome to Soul and Vibration. I hope the free thinkers are doing well. And if you're not doing well, I'm happy to remind you that you are the most powerful person that you know. You are the most powerful person that you know because only you can create your reality. Hey, I want to apologize in advance for the random loud noises you will hear. I didn't realize they were so loud when I was recording. This video is about Neptune and Aries, the Neptune and Aries transit. This video is part one. Part one because we're early in the transit and this is a 14-year transit or so. So I'm sure I'm going to make more videos covering this transit. But also part one because part two of this video is available on Patreon, where I go over sun, moon, rising placements, pull cards and see what energies are coming out around this transit energy. When it comes to the Neptune and transit video, the Neptune and Aries transit video, this transit started on March 30th and it will go from March 30th, 2025 through 2039. On say October 22nd, it will retrograde back into Pisces until 2026 and eventually going into Aries and staying there until 2039. The last time, it was back in 2011, 14 years ago, when Neptune went into Pisces and now going into Aries, and it'll spend about 14 years or so in the sign of Aries. And the last time, say, Neptune was in the sign of Aries, it was back in the 1860s, and that's when we had we had a civil war going on then. And I feel like, so for me, immediately, you think, okay, the last time Neptune was in Aries, we were having a civil war and whatnot was going on in the world. But for me, the reason why I'm not going to spend a lot of energy on that is because we're existing in a totally different time. And I feel like wars look different today. I feel like in today's day, we could be at war right now and we'll never know it because it looks different. And then when you think about media and propaganda and things like that, they're gonna tell us whatever it is that they want to tell us about what's happening and what we're experiencing. So instead, I wanna touch on other things when it comes to this transit, where for me, when it comes to astrology, numerology and things like that, I like to touch on the psychology. Like I say in the intro, you're the most powerful person that you know because only you could create your reality. For me, when it comes to these transits, it's a matter of learning the gravitational pull of the energy, where there'll be a lot of energy, what to look forward to when it comes to this energy, how to make the most of energies like this. And when I think of, say, Neptune entering into Aries, when I think of, say, the planet Neptune for me reflects dreams. It reflects intuition. It deals with mysticism. It deals with imagination, and it could also deal with delusion and deception. When I think of the sign Aries, I think of it's the first sign of the zodiac. It's the baby, but it's also the warrior because it's ruled by Mars. It's bold, it's fiery, it's action oriented. So those are some things that I think about when I think of Aries energy. And then when I bring, say, Neptune into Aries, I think of how those energies come together and what we could expect from that. So when I think of the Neptune and Aries experience, I think of a few placements that might be able to relate to what we'll feel collectively when it comes to this transit, with this being a generational energy. The babies that will be born during this transit will all have Neptune and Aries, being a part of the Neptune and Aries generation. And when it comes to, say, being a part of any Neptune generation, for me, with Neptune energy, there's always a level of absence. I speak a lot about, say, the Neptune and Capricorn generation, and I created a video calling that the fatherless generation, because with, say, Neptune Capricorn generation, just to give an example, that generation, more than likely, there is an absence of the father for the majority, whether the absence is due to hard working, substance abuse, mental health issues, or just wasn't there on a whole. So for me, Neptune energy is an energy that also deals with absence. So when I think of like Neptune and Aries and a Neptune and Aries generation, there might be an absence of, when you think of Aries energy, there might be an absence of ambition. There might be an absence of boldness. There might be an absence of, say, identity or motivation, or that might be something that is hidden as whatever, say, whatever sign Neptune is in your chart, whatever house Neptune is in your chart, it reflects a level of absence when it comes to a thing, or there could be a lot of challenges pertaining to this thing because it's hidden. Something that I noticed, a pattern that I noticed, and I meant to create content on it, but never got around to it. I noticed that there was a pattern when I think of, like, say, we would have a bunch of celebrities coming up being charged with, like, say, different kind of sex crimes and things of that nature. And I noticed that they all had Neptune and Scorpio. So there was some kind of a delusion, confusion, or something when it comes to, say, sex, their relationship with sex, how they see sex, and Neptune coming in and creating delusion, confusion, or something around cloud judgment when it comes to that. Not saying, because of Neptune and Scorpio or this or that, not making any excuses for anyone if it sounds like that. But I thought it was interesting whenever different things came up around most of the people that you'll see in front of us today being charged with different sexual crimes, there's a pattern of Neptune and Scorpio, or there's a Pisces, Scorpio, Neptune, Scorpio. There's something going on with that. So I say all that to say, for me, when it comes to, say, this Neptune and Aries transit, people who have, say, Mars in the 12th house, Aries in the 12th house, Mars in Pisces, can relate to what we'll be feeling collectively when it comes to this energy. And I feel like people with the placements that I just mentioned, a lot of the time, some of them will struggle with, say, how do I put it? Will struggle when it comes to, say, their ambition feeling hidden from them, whether there is a lack of ambition or a lack of motivation or a lack of clarity when it comes to taking action and making things happen. Or in some cases, if a person doesn't struggle with the lack of ambition or motivation to make things happen, what I see is that a person will have situations where it's like they keep waking up to a reality and to results that they're not pleased with and they're confused by. Because with Mars being the ruler of Aries, and Mars is our motivation, and with Aries being in Neptune, it's almost as if there's a level of unconsciousness when it comes to how we're showing up. I think of a person that might assume that they're showing up a certain way, but people are responding to them totally different. So I feel like when it comes to, say, this transit, a way how to, say, make the most of this transit is to become conscious of patterns when it comes to ourselves. And we see ourselves best through others. So when I say patterns when it comes to ourselves, I think of the person that keep getting a certain feedback from people when it comes to how they're showing up. And say the feedback is coming from strangers. So they're getting a feedback from strangers about themselves, but they don't feel like they resonate with this feedback. And if there's a common feedback coming up from people who don't know each other, I feel like that's an opportunity to sit down and acknowledge or become aware how one is showing up. Like I've shared with you guys all the time, where I didn't know what a resting bitch face was, or that I even had one. I remember there were times where random people will say to me, "Smile, you look so mean." And I would be confused to that because I don't feel like I look mean or I don't feel mad. But it wasn't until a time when a client said to me jokingly, "You have a resting bitch face just like me." And I'm like, "What?" And, you know, she described what that is. And then everything clicked for me because I would always be so confused when I would go out with friends. And it's like people would approach them, but no one would approach me. And when people would approach me, normally it would be people who have boundary issues, because clearly my face was saying, "Leave me the hell alone." So most people was respecting what my face was saying that I didn't know it was saying, and they would leave me the hell alone. And the ones who would push past my face saying, "Leave me the hell alone," would be the ones that, you know, normally turned out to be problematic because my face had left me the hell alone, even though I didn't know it did. And they were pushing past that anyways. So I feel like, you know, when it comes to this Neptune and Aries transit, some of the things that can come up a lot throughout the next 14 years is unconscious behavior. People showing up in a way and don't even realize they're showing up the way they're showing up. People having motivations and don't even realize what their true motivations are. An example of that, I think of, like, say the person that they have a goal, they pursue the goal, and they're not happy after pursuing the goal. And they might not realize that the goal that they're pursuing is one that was sold to them, because not only was the goal sold to them, but an identity that came with the goal was also sold to them. So instead, they're trying to live up to this, you know, this identity that was sold, whether through, say, a certain actor, a certain model, certain people we look up to, and we pursue this thing and we've achieved the success, we've achieved the goal, but we don't feel successful, we don't feel achieved, because our true goals, our true inspirations are hidden from us with Neptune energy, meaning that instead of going within, which this energy calls, instead we could be glamorized by, say, media, Hollywood, and marketing and things of that nature. So that's some of the things that I see when it comes to this transit. I see how easy it is to kind of mold a generation to kind of be lost or unclear about their true motive, their true identity, and how they're showing up, and instead put an image on them. The positive that I see when it comes to this transit, I think of Aries energy being so bold. I think of it being an identity energy, because it's the I am, and it's, you know, see me. It's an individual type of energy. And going into Neptune, with Neptune going into Aries, what I also see is a generation being born that is, or also molding us who are already here, influencing us to be way more spiritual than we already are. Whatever. And for me, what spirituality means for me self-awareness. It's having a deeper, being dedicated to a deeper understanding of self, which calls us to tap into the non-physical realm, because we're more than just physical beings. So, you know, when it comes to, say, this transit, I see this transit causing some of us to be way more spiritual, meaning we're deeper divers when it comes to who we are on a spiritual realm. I feel like this transit will bring through revolutionary spiritual experiences, meaning when I think of, say, the babies born into this transit, you know how they'll say, "Oh, these babies are crystal, you know, different star seeds." Like, I think of, like, the superpowers of these babies born into this time, into this transit, because it's almost like, say, being born with, like, the Neptune, how would I put it? Being born with the Neptune influence. So it's like being way more intuitive, being empathic, being way more telepathic, where most of us, like, collectively, we're not known to embrace that side of ourselves. And I think of the babies born into this energy are embracing that telepathic side. And I think with Neptune moving into Aries, some of us owning that side of ourselves, allowing that side of ourselves to come out. So I think of like spiritual revolutions when it comes to, say, Neptune and Aries energy, where people are tapping more into their spiritual side, into their intuitive sides. I think of people becoming more creative, especially when, say, Saturn enters there on May 24th, 2025. I love that Saturn is entering there in the beginning of the transit. Because to me, with Saturn entering there in the beginning of the transit, I feel like it sets the tone, and sets the tone in a really good way, because as I've mentioned in past videos, Saturn entering into Pisces has been one of my favorite transits most recently. And the reason for that is I have my moon in the Neptune house, in the 12th house. And I feel like Saturn energy going into a place, into a sign, into an energy that deals with no boundaries. It's like Saturn going in there and creating boundaries, enforcing boundaries. I know for Pisces, probably this may have been a stressful or hectic transit, as for some, this energy might force certain people to be or hold certain people accountable in ways that they've never been before. And maybe that way of Saturn holding people accountable may have showed up in ways that were just stressful and frustrating. But when it was all said and done, I could see people having more structure and being able to build better foundations in their world. But what I love about the Saturn transit Pisces, is because most of all, I feel like two things that stands out to me with that transit. I think of like people being able to be way more psychic and intuitive, or being able to own their psychic and intuitive abilities, because with Pisces, Neptune energy, 12th house energy, being a space of no boundaries. And when I think of Jupiter being the original ruler of Pisces, I think of Jupiter's expansion, being so expansive and optimistic. Energy could be very similar to what Neptune brings to Pisces energy, and what Pisces is, or what we know Pisces to be, the dreamer, being optimistic, expansive, being so expansive and optimistic to where there's no structure, there's no boundaries. And Saturn comes in and brings in that structure and boundaries, and that helps us to be even more psychic, or become confident in our psychic and intuitive abilities. And for others, it helps us to monetize our dreams and goals. I think of Pisces energy as one that is very creative, very artistic. You know, Pisces energy rules the dream, and a dream is a blueprint to reality. But without structure, it's impossible to bring those dreams to reality. And Saturn energy create that structure that made it possible for a lot of us to monetize our dreams, monetize our goals. So with it entering into, say, Neptune at the beginning of the Neptune Aries transit, I feel like it sets the tone in the sense that the same thing that it did for Pisces, it will be doing that for Neptune energy, where it will help to create structure and boundaries, and help us to see things clearly, to properly make the most of that energy, is what I see with that. So when it comes to, say, this Neptune entering into Aries energy, I feel like it's a powerful energy, like I said, because for some of us, it'll, help to strengthen our intuition, help us to be more creative, more resourceful, more expressive. With Saturn entering there, being able to monetize our goals, monetize our dreams, make our wildest dreams happen. But also too, the level of deception, because that is a part of Neptunian energy, deception, manipulation. And, that's something to watch out for. And I feel like the way how to watch out for that, because we could easily deceive ourselves. And the way how to watch out for that with this transit, and say those who have Mars in the 12th house, Aries on the 12th house cusp, Mars in Pisces, you want to pay attention to extreme emotions. Extreme emotions are often when projection is happening, and it's through projecting we often deceive and delude ourselves. And extreme emotions pertaining to anything is a time when you want to ground yourself and bring yourself back to the reality of what's happening. An extreme emotion could be, you see something on TV and automatically you start projecting onto yourself and imagine yourself stepping into that career or that calling. And you ask yourself, can, the process that it takes to achieve that goal and to maintain that goal, is the process in alignment with me? Can I get up every day and do that thing, whatever that thing is, to get to the goal and to maintain it? That's a way to be honest with yourself. Because this energy, I feel like with Neptune and Aries, it'll be easy to sell us a lot of things that touch us on an emotional level, because I feel like it's through the emotions we often project, and we think it's intuition because we felt so strongly. When it comes to our intuition speaking, I don't know about you, but for me, when my intuition speaks, it's firm, but it's not loud, and there's no extreme emotion connected to it. It's just firm and strong and present, but it's not loud, if that makes sense. So yeah, when it comes to, say, this energy, pay attention to extreme emotions. That'll tell you if you're projecting. So an example I just gave about extreme emotions around pursuing certain things. Be honest with yourself about the process. If you can't see yourself keeping up with the process to achieve the goal, or keeping up with the process to maintain the goal, then it's not for you. And then also too, when it comes to people, we can tell we're projecting when it comes to people when we feel extreme emotions towards them and we start making up excuses for them. We start to fill in the blanks for them. This is where, you meet someone and maybe they're crumbing you along and you make excuses for the crumbs. And eventually they step fully out of character and you're like, this person's a narcissist. And it's like, they've been consistently who they are. It's just now that they fully step out of character and they're not giving the person what it is that they want, all of a sudden that they see that this person has toxic personality traits. I feel like when it comes to, this energy collectively, we have to take responsibility for ourselves and the stories that we tell ourselves and the situations that we end up in based on the stories we choose to tell ourselves. So yeah, when it comes to this transit energy is powerful because of its ability to help us to manifest, because Neptune is a manifesting energy, because again, the dream is the blueprint to reality. So I feel like this transit is powerful when it comes to manifesting and making things happen that others probably tell you that it's impossible. This energy could make those things happen. But also too, this is the kind of energy that could cause us to sign up for situations or manifest situations into our world that we don't want. So it's very important for us to be very intentional when it comes to this energy, intentional when it comes to this transit. Wherever you have Aries in your chart, whatever house Aries is in, you want to challenge yourself to be grounded. You want to challenge yourself to be present. Challenging yourself to be grounded and present, because this is an area where you could find yourself being making obsessive moves or impulsive moves and decisions without seeing the entire picture, because Aries is already an energy that jumps in the pool before realizing there's any water in it. So it's like, imagine having blindfolds on and being impulsive at the same time, where Neptune can sometimes serve as blindfolds, because there's this fog of illusion, delusion, or even fog of fairy tale around us, and we're refusing to see the reality of a thing. So you jump into the business, you jump in and sign the contract, you jump into the relationship. It's like jumping into a thing, impulsive with Aries energy. So we're impulsive about a thing and we're taking action based on stories that we told, based on what we imagine a thing to be. I think when it comes to this energy, some of us have to be really careful, because it'll be so easy to make a decision and jump into something and then there's no way of jumping out. Like what just came to mind is how they're building so many prisons and things of that. I feel like this could be an energy that feeds into that, in the sense that it's like blind, impulsive actions. That's something that we want to look out for when it comes to this transit. Like for me, when Neptune was in Pisces, of course, yes, I'm sure it influenced our world in ways, but to me, with Neptune being ruled by Pisces, and some will say, but what about Jupiter? When you look at Jupiter's energy and some of the things that Jupiter is known for, it's very similar to Neptune to a certain extent, because when you think of, say, Jupiter's optimism, a person could be so optimistic that they're delusional, so optimistic that they're not seeing reality. I think of the faith of Neptune and the faith of Jupiter. They're similar in a lot of ways. But when I think of, say, this transit and this energy, when Neptune was in Pisces, to me, Neptune being in Pisces for me felt like someone frying fish in the fish shop. So imagine someone frying fish in the fish shop. Like the shop already sells fish and someone's frying fish in the fish shop. Where it's like they, it rules Pisces. It's at home there. It's like I think of, like, say, Saturn being in Capricorn, and it's like the person, it's like the soldier in the military type of vibe, even though I'm not saying Saturn is a soldier and Capricorn is military energy. I'm just saying they're so much alike to where if Saturn is in Capricorn, it's like it's at home. It's not much of a big deal. Like, say if it goes into a sign that isn't used to that kind of energy. Where, like I said, with Neptune entering into Aries, to me, it's almost like driving fast under the influence. It's moving fast with this influence energy. It could be positive where you step into that manifesting aspect, the mystic aspect of Neptune, and you visualize an outcome, and then you take action, you take inspired action with this vision in mind, and you make things happen. I think of that powerful aspect of it. But for the most part, I think of people being unconscious and, like I said, driving fast under the influence, jumping into a situation without reading the fine print, filling in the blanks and assuming. Like I think of, like, say someone have a job and it's their job to, say, you collect all the money from everybody, and after you collect the money, then you put into the system how much you've collected and send that off. I think of a person assuming that Susie always pays on time. So they put in the system that they collected Susie's money, and then Susie never paid. And then now they're left in the negative from putting Susie paid when Susie didn't. And now they have to be held accountable for putting something in the system that isn't so. And maybe Susie get a free credit because of their mistake. It's like jumping ahead, filling in the blanks, and assuming. Throughout this transit, through the next 14 years, we want to challenge ourselves to be present, especially wherever this energy is in your chart, because this energy is so foreign to Aries. Like I said, it's like, the person driving fast with blindfolds on, or I think of a person driving fast on black ice. It's like the road looks normal, but when you go to hit the brakes, it's like you can't stop the car. Those are some things that I'm thinking about when it comes to this energy. So while it brings so many positive things, I feel like it could bring some challenging things too. Also, too, when it comes to this energy, there's something very isolating about Neptune. So with it entering into Aries, all of a sudden we could find ourselves feeling even more lonelier than normal for those who feel lonely most of the time. And then I think about Pluto in Aquarius, and Pluto in Aquarius energy, Pluto in Aquarius energy transforming our friendships and our friend groups. And Pluto in Aquarian energy can also create loner type vibes, because I think of like Pluto in Libra and the Pluto in Libra generation, and how based on what that generation saw when it comes to marriage and relationship, most of that generation probably chose to be single, or when it comes to their relationships, there's this power struggle often that happens around connection in the need to feel safe. And I feel like with the Pluto in Aquarian generation, it's somewhat similar, where there's power struggles around friendships and connections. And some people will choose to be alone instead of opposed to being a part of the group, because of the power struggles and when it comes to the connection with others. So I think of that generational energy that will be playing out for 20 years, and then this generational energy, and how both those generational energies to me is reflecting a future of isolation to a certain extent, a future, like it'll kind of remind me of like the COVID lockdown. Not saying that that's a future that I see, because that's not a future that I want, that I don't want to see for myself. But I think of Pluto in Aquarius and the isolating aspect that it will create, where it's like, you know, when it comes to people in their friend groups with the Pluto energy, there's power struggles again, and eventually it creates isolation or maybe mind games to a certain extent in order to assert power and control when it comes to groups. And, you know, Neptune and Aries, Neptune energy is already a lone or isolating energy. And with Aries energy there, it's almost as if like low-key Pisces rising to a certain extent in everyone's chart, generationally, collectively, whether we're seeing things, everything through ourselves, and from seeing ourselves and the world mostly through rose-colored glasses. Like I said, it's like driving fast with blindfolds on or on black ice, or it could be this spiritual revolutional experience where we're manifesting our ideal worlds, our ideal experiencing, manifesting the life that we want, manifesting without boundaries, without limits. Because with Neptune energy, like I feel like there's two sides like everything else. There's a side where there's manipulation, there's deception, there's manipulation, deception, delusion. And then there's the side where there's freedom. Because when I think of like the whole thing of life, where in order for us to truly be free, we have to go in. For me, that's Neptune energy. That's Neptune energy going in to go out. Like I think of how, you know, they'll tell us that they go to space through these spaceships, but what if they go to space through the ocean? I think that's Neptune energy. Like when I think of 12th house Neptune energy, I think of, you know, when I think of this, a whole house, and each room is each sign of the zodiac. And when you go to the 12th house, you enter into this nothingness, whether you're dropping to the bottom of the water and there's no bottom, or you're out in space and there's no bottom, there's no boundary, there's no end. You're just forever floating in this infinite space that never ends. There's no boundary, there's no structure. And I mentioned Saturn entering will create some, so that we could, you know, have some kind of confidence when it comes to this energy for the next 14 years or so. But for the most part, like I was saying, when I imagine the 12th house energy and the Neptune energy, it's a place where, you know, it's the way out. It's like we have to go in to go out. And I feel like that's that Neptune energy. But there's two sides to it. There's a side where we're manifesting a world that we were told is impossible, or a side where we're imprisoned, because Neptune energy also deals with isolation and being controlled or feeling imprisoned to a certain extent. So I feel like we could all be here on this planet, or here having this human experience and having complete different experiences of it, where some are manifesting a world that is just feels unrealistic. Like you'll go online and see 18-year-olds are easily making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, monthly, because for them there's no boundaries when it comes to the energy we call money. That's backed by only belief. Money is backed by belief, and for them there's no restriction when it comes to that belief. So they can manifest things that, you know, we've been conditioned to think is impossible, because there's no restriction there. Or the opposite of that energy could be the person who is within a prison within themselves, within their situation, but not realizing that they are the, you know, they're the ones creating the prison that they have themselves in. So when it comes to this Neptune energy, for me, it's a powerful energy, but it's a matter of us understanding this energy and wielding this energy in a way that, you know, serves our greatest good. And it comes down to the stories we choose to tell ourselves. What is it that we believe? And our beliefs, you know, they create our reality. And I feel like Neptune energy is like Hollywood energy. It's storytelling energy. So for me, when it comes to this transit, you want to make sure that you're making the most of this energy by, you know, working on your beliefs and what it is that what it is that you know is possible for you, and work on releasing the limiting beliefs and instead empower yourself and take on beliefs that create the kind of world and experience you want to have. Let's pause for a bit. I am proud of the services that I offer and excited to tell you about them. If it would be your first time booking with me, then I recommend the natal chart and numerology awareness coaching session. For a while, that was the only service I offered, along with the 30 minutes tarot reading, which is still available if you're interested. I noticed the pattern. At the end of the natal chart and numerology coaching sessions, some of you would ask me for a follow-up service options for additional clarity and guidance to assist you with whatever you're going through at the moment. I kept saying, I'll look into it. I don't know why it took me so long. Finally, I have created that option along with the service option to book a solar return chart reading for those of you who are strategic and like to plan ahead. Everything you need to know is within the description box below. Let's get back into the video. Something that stood out to me when it comes to this transit, what stood out in my mind is the Trojan horse. And the Trojan horse, let me try to explain it the best way I can. So with the Trojan horse, I remember okay. So what stands out in my mind when it comes to this transit is the Trojan horse. And let me try my best to describe the Trojan horse. So the way how I think I remember the story about the Trojan horse is, I'm gonna give an example. So say side A and side B are at war, or maybe they're enemies or whatnot. And side A gives side B this gift, which is this huge horse. And this gift is supposed to be a gift to symbolize whatever. But really, this gift is actually filled with a bunch of soldiers. And it was through the Trojan horse they were able to infiltrate or get into this, say, guarded area or guarded place that normally it would be hard to get into. So say you have a very safe house and your house is super safe. It's impossible for anyone to get in. And the Trojan horse would be like someone gifted you something. But this gift isn't what you think it is. Instead, this gift it has a bunch of like people hiding inside of this huge sculpture that you were given. And it was through the gifts they were able to get inside of your space and open up the door so others could come in and invade and take over your home, your country, your whatever. So when it comes to this transit, there's something that keeps coming up about Trojan, like the Trojan horse. Meaning something is gifted, and it's gifted, and emotionally we're stuck on the idea of the gift. And because I feel like I said earlier with this Neptune energy, I always think about the whole catfish, the show Catfish, and how people always feel like, oh, my intuition told me, God told me. No, in your mind, you already had this ideal image of something, and something came along and matched it. And emotionally, you have this emotional demand, and there's this image that matched it. And then you project onto this person and created all these emotions and telling, oneself it's their intuition, when really it's an image that they had in their mind. The emotions backed it, and it wasn't real. And people feel like, I can't trust my intuition. It was never your intuition. It was your emotions, number one. And then a story you've been given by society, and someone came along that matched that image, and you thought, okay, this was my chance. And more than likely, the story probably meant something about the person who was looking for someone to fulfill, the ideal partner or whatever the thing is. But with the Trojan horse thing, and why I said all that, I think of how, with Neptune energy, this energy tends to play on our emotions. And I think with the Trojans example of how throughout this transit, we can have Trojan horses infiltrate our safe place, infiltrate secure spaces. And when it comes to infiltrating our secure space, I think of how our emotions can get in the way of logic throughout this transit, and we'll invite something in, and this thing that we invite in is supposed to be a symbolism of something else. But if we allow for our, the practical side of ourselves to balance out also the intuitive side, we'll be able to see a lot of the Trojan horses, that will be put out in the world to try to infiltrate us in ways or the other. Whether it's a movie that comes out on Netflix, and maybe because, say, the movie was produced by people you look up to or people you admire, you automatically, you know, when you watch the movie, you buy into the stories that that is within in the movie or in the show, and you identify and resonate. And to me, to resonate is to remember. And whenever we resonate or buy into certain things, it's like it becomes a part of our reality, and we help to collectively manifest these things. And I feel like that's something that just came to me that I want to add when it comes to this transit. Throughout the 14-year years, we'll see a lot of Trojan type of situations, and we probably already see them now, but I feel like it feels like they'll be so much bigger, because it feels like there's like there's definitely spiritual warfare. And the Trojan horse example to me would almost be an example to infiltrate, to pierce through the being. You know, with Neptune energy, the delusion, the illusion, Aries is the individual, and the Trojan is like playing on one's emotions and being able to plant seeds. It's like that's something that came to mind just now, and I wanted to share. But this is part one. Part one, yes, because I'll probably be creating more videos on this topic, but part one, because part two is also available on Patreon. Pleasure sharing this message with you. Let me know you're here with me by dropping me a white heart in the comment box below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Love yourself as if your life depended on it, because it does. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.